but I wasn't confident in it because I didn't get a lot of positive feedback at the time. You know, what you're referring to, I had ran into a lot of traffic, a lot of internal traffic.
You know, as a songwriter, you don't really think of yourself as a writer. You know, you just think of yourself as a singer who just needed some words to sing. Okay.
Because it's available, I do it because I hear it. I do it because I can't get away from it. The best way that I know how to do it, and I'm thinking that that's the standard that everybody is attempting to meet. I had never been trained. I didn't go through the whole church process. I didn't go through the whole
thing. Okay, now as a writer, you can't hide behind the music. Whatever it is that you're saying, it has to mean something or have something worth somebody's time to want to read it. So
okay, I know that that's not where I need to be. So I go to school for it. So there was a lot of uncertainty and insecurity in my abilities, even though I had it.
Are you ready for a jaw-dropping truth bomb about one of R&B's most beloved voices? Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the artist behind your favorite soulful hits has completely transformed. Alter egos, wild costumes, and a behind-the-scenes scandal so intense it almost destroyed his career. We're talking about Talib Johnson, the man the world knows as Musiq Soulchild. This is not just another music retrospective. It's a full-throttle exposé on how a quiet Philadelphia kid rose to chart-topping fame, plunged into crisis, and emerged with a story that no one could have predicted. Stay right here, because we're about to peel back every layer of the saga, from near-death hospital scares and a brush with total obscurity, to shock and awe rebrands that baffled fans everywhere. By the end, you'll see why his name still sparks debate, how he reinvented himself multiple times, and whether his resurrection is here to stay. If you think you know Musiq Soulchild, buckle up. The real story might just blow your mind. Welcome to a deep dive into the extraordinary life and times of Talib Johnson, more famously known as Musiq Soulchild. You might remember his smooth R&B ballads from the early 2000s like Love or Just Friends, tunes that made entire crowds sway and sing in unison. Yet behind those hits lies a winding path of personal struggles, career gambles, and creative reinventions that reads almost like a Hollywood script. In an industry as volatile as R&B, few have experienced as many dramatic ups and downs as Musiq Soulchild. In this extensive video, we're going to dissect every twist and turn of his journey, from his humble beginnings on Philadelphia's open mic stages to the experimental alter egos that left fans and the music industry scratching their heads. This is not a casual recap. We're going big on the scandalous tidbits, the behind-closed-doors battles, and the triumphant comeback that still has people talking. By weaving in high-stakes cliffhangers and emotional highlights, we'll explore what really happened when the man known for heartfelt lyrics suddenly tried to shake off his entire identity. Whether you've been a lifelong fan of his distinct brand of soul, or you're hearing these details for the first time, there's something here for you. Lessons about brand confusion, the challenge of staying afloat when trends shift, and the raw reality of addiction and personal demons. And remember, this isn't just a monologue, it's an invitation. Let us know your favorite Musiq Soulchild moment, or tell us where you think he stands now in the evolving R&B landscape. If the real story behind Talib Johnson's highs, lows, and big returns intrigues you, keep watching, and make sure to drop a comment, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Let's jump in. Let's roll the clock back to Philadelphia, where a shy kid named Talib Johnson discovered the transformative power of soul music. If you're familiar with Philly's storied music tradition, you know it has produced icons like Jill Scott, The Roots, and Patti LaBelle. Talib was soaking up these influences from the jump, standing on street corners, listening to classic songs, and dreaming, though not necessarily about stardom. In fact, the rumor around his neighborhood was that he had no grand plan to become a big-name artist. He simply loved to sing. Picture a basement lit by a single dangling bulb, an old stereo blasting Stevie Wonder or Donny Hathaway. Young Talib would mimic those legends for hours. Neighbors started referring to him as the Music Boy, a playful nickname that spoke volumes about the talent that seemed to flow from him effortlessly. He'd show up at local open mic nights, belt out tunes, and vanish before anyone could even catch his name. Those who witnessed him live could feel that he had a special gift, unpolished, yes, but undeniably compelling. Talib's earliest inspirations weren't limited to vintage R&B. He also loved hip-hop, occasionally rapping along to the beats floating through the Philly streets. That intersection of old-school soul and modern hip-hop grooves later became the signature vibe in his breakout hits. For now, though, I know that his musical DNA was a blend of heartfelt ballads and edgy, street-level energy. This foundation would shape the brand we eventually came to know as Musiq Soulchild. Talib was performing in cramped bars and modest talent shows when a record executive finally spotted him. You might imagine a flashy sequence of events, maybe a big showcase or a star-studded party. But in reality, his discovery was much more low-key. One day, someone from the industry heard him sing, recognized the raw potential, and offered him a deal. Think about how life-altering that moment must have been. 1 second, he's a local singer with a dream, and the next, he's holding a contract. Here's the kicker. Talib never seriously pursued a record contract. He mostly sang for the love of it, letting his voice speak for itself. Yet the opportunity landed in his lap, almost a cosmic alignment. The label was on the hunt for something fresh and authentic, and Talib fit the bill perfectly. Signing that contract was his first giant leap toward the mainstream. The first singles he dropped under the new deal felt like a fresh breeze blowing through the R&B scene. Listeners tired of formulaic ballads found a spark of innovation in Talib's style. He had that intangible quality that made you feel every lyric. Plus, the fusion of hip-hop-infused beats with smooth, soulful vocals brought a flavor that helped him stand out. As these tracks hit the airwaves, the name Musiq Soulchild started to circulate. The industry buzzed about the new guy who might bring R&B back to its emotional roots while keeping it modern. If you lived through the early 2000s, you'll recall a time when R&B was on fire. Giants like Usher, Alicia Keys, and Mary J. Blige were dominating the airwaves. Into this arena stepped Musiq Soulchild, whose songs started charting and racking up radio spins. Tracks like Love, Just Friends, and others became instant anthems for romance and heartbreak. Concerts sold out, and industry chatter suggested he might be the next big name in soul. R&B purists embraced him because he stayed true to classic soul fundamentals, and younger fans loved the contemporary hip-hop beats. This dual appeal allowed him to cut through the clutter, bridging the gap between older music lovers and emerging hip-hop aficionados. Another factor that helped was his humility. He never seemed overly slick or contrived, letting the music speak for itself. Part of Musiq Soulchild's mystique was his tendency to rock shades and hats on stage, even in intimate venues. Initially, this was a way to tackle stage fright. He felt safer hiding behind tinted lenses. Over time, these accessories became integral to his look, symbolizing the introspective performer fans adored. Little did they know that behind those accessories was a shy artist grappling with the anxiety of exposing his soul to strangers. As fame escalated, so did the pressure. Talib found himself in a whirlwind of interviews, studio sessions, and concert dates. Behind the curtains, however, he was fighting a dark battle with alcoholism. It started as a way to cope with nerves and fatigue, but it quickly ballooned into a life-threatening risk. He was no longer just sipping between gigs. He was drinking heavily to numb the stress that accompanied his meteoric rise. The situation worsened to the point that Talib ended up in the hospital. That brush with real, life-threatening complications forced him to reevaluate. Imagine hitting peak commercial success while simultaneously unraveling inside. He made a vow. If he survived, he would fight to get his life back on track. This near-death episode instilled a new sense of resolve, fueling the emotional core of his future music. Interestingly, the general public remained largely unaware of these personal struggles at the time. His label and management team did a good job of keeping his polished R&B star image intact. In an era before pervasive social media, it was easier to keep such issues under wraps. Today, it's recognized as a pivotal moment that almost ended his career before it truly soared. By the mid-2000s, everything seemed to be going Musiq Soulchild's way. He was charting high, receiving award nominations, and collaborating with some of the biggest names in music. Venues that had once been half-empty were now packed to capacity. For a vocalist who never chased stardom, this must have been surreal. In interviews, he often expressed gratitude, attributing his success to fans who connected with his straightforward, heart-on-sleeve lyrics. But the R&B scene was evolving. Hip-hop and pop elements were taking over radio playlists, and even the biggest R&B acts felt pressure to adapt. Some, like Usher, integrated more club-oriented sounds. Others pivoted to incorporate electronic layers. Musiq Soulchild's approach, soulful sincerity over subtle hip-hop grooves, still worked, but whispers suggested that the market was drifting towards something else. Soon, he would face a choice: either update his style or risk getting left behind. Ready for the bombshell? As R&B's commercial momentum began to slow in the late 2000s, Musiq Soulchild was forced to rethink his identity. Radio support waned, album sales dipped, and the public's craving for the next big thing loomed large. At a crossroads, Talib Johnson had to decide whether to stay the course or drastically reinvent himself. In a move that blindsided fans, he chose total reinvention. The era of being Musiq Soulchild ended in a flash. Enter a new alter ego known as the Hustle, adopting a persona so different from his classic image that you'd wonder if it was the same artist. Instead of heartfelt ballads, he pivoted to trap-infused beats and heavy auto-tune, swapping his signature shades for masked appearances in dark, futuristic costumes. Nobody saw it coming. This was more than a slight refresh. It was a dramatic overhaul that contradicted the essence of Musiq Soulchild. Reactions came fast and furious. Longtime admirers were confused, even outraged. Where was the soulful singer they'd grown to love? Who was this masked figure rapping over trap beats? Social media lit up, with many accusing Talib of chasing trends and abandoning authenticity. The press labeled it a bizarre meltdown. Was it an artistic experiment or a desperate attempt to stay relevant? Either way, the Hustle era felt like a giant gamble, one that seemed doomed from the start. Let's delve deeper into the Hustle. This wasn't just a new name, it was a full-blown identity switch. Mixtapes emerged, featuring trap production and layered auto-tune that obscured his celebrated vocals. He hoped to tap into a younger audience, proving he could ride the new wave. The reality? He confused almost everyone. Promoters who once booked him for soulful concerts didn't know how to market the Hustle. Was he a hip-hop act now? Would older R&B fans even show up? The result was fewer bookings and smaller audiences. Industry whispers labeled it a midlife crisis unfolding in real time. More damaging was the sense that Talib was erasing the very identity that made him special: raw, soul-drenched vocals and relatable love songs. From Talib's perspective, the Hustle was genuine creative exploration, an escape from being pigeonholed as a balladeer. Yet the dramatic pivot came with a steep price: brand confusion on a massive scale. Loyal fans were alienated, and new audiences had no nostalgic ties to the Hustle. It was a lose-lose scenario, spiraling into a crisis that took years to mend. You might think one colossal misfire would be enough, but Talib soon unveiled another alter ego, Purple Wonder Love. Gone were the trap beats and dark ensembles. In their place, psychedelic visuals, funky bass lines, and a kaleidoscope of retro references. This second reinvention felt like a correction after the Hustle fiasco, but it only deepened the confusion. Talib explained that Purple Wonder Love reflected a different facet of his artistic identity. He grew up on funk and wanted to channel legends like James Brown and George Clinton. But critics and fans were quick to cry foul. Was this yet another identity crisis? One moment he was the Hustle, now he was a psychedelic funkster? His brand image splintered further. Which version of Musiq Soulchild was real? Not surprisingly, Purple Wonder Love failed to reach the mainstream. Some reviewers praised his sonic adventurousness, but most fans suffered whiplash. The older R&B crowd felt more alienated than ever, and younger listeners didn't latch onto the funk throwback. In the end, it was another misstep, compounding the setbacks Talib had already faced. After two major flops in quick succession, Talib returned to his original identity, Musiq Soulchild. He released an album called Life on Earth, focusing on the soulful ballads and mid-tempo grooves that had once won him acclaim. The marketing was simpler, the vocals less processed, and the radical personas were, at least temporarily, retired. While Life on Earth didn't rocket to the top of the charts, it reaffirmed his core appeal to loyal followers. The album reminded fans why they fell in love with Musiq Soulchild in the first place. It offered a modest commercial performance and a moral victory for someone who had experienced significant backlash in recent years. Yet the broader music industry had moved on. Streaming services reconfigured how people discovered music, and multi-platinum R&B albums from early 2000s veterans were increasingly rare. Still, Talib managed to recapture some of his audience by staying true to the style that originally set him apart. The two alter egos were no longer front and center, but they left lasting questions about his brand direction. Let's pause and consider the industry context. By the time Talib returned to his Musiq Soulchild persona, the R&B landscape was vastly different from the one he had once dominated. Hip-hop overshadowed radio playlists, pop music fused with electronic elements, and younger R&B singers like Bryson Tiller and her were experimenting with new forms. Traditional soul with slow jams and heartfelt lyrics occupied a smaller niche. As a result, it became nearly impossible for Musiq Soulchild to regain the commercial triumph he once experienced. Record labels were unwilling to invest heavily in nostalgic acts unless there was a clear path to crossover success. It left Talib in limbo, torn between the soul traditions that shaped him and an industry that had shifted drastically. Artists often turn to reinvention when their genre's popularity dips. But as Talib's story demonstrates, going too far can dismantle your existing audience. The Hustle and Purple Wonder Love were extreme leaps, taken when smaller, more organic evolutions might have sufficed. Instead, those pivots caused brand fragmentation, leading to years of rebuilding and lost momentum. Despite the turbulence, Talib did find bright spots. He kept releasing music, including a project titled Feel the Real, which garnered a Grammy nomination. Though it didn't top the charts, the recognition proved he could still earn respect within the industry. It felt like a sigh of relief. Maybe music fans hadn't entirely moved on. A notable moment of renewed attention arrived when he faced off against Anthony Hamilton in a live battle, each showcasing their greatest hits. Social media lit up as fans remembered tracks like Love, Just Friends, and Charlene. Although the event didn't return him to early 2000s glory, it rekindled appreciation for his older songs. For a moment, it felt like R&B's golden era was back, with two masters showing off their timeless artistry. Increasingly, Talib also worked behind the scenes, mentoring young artists, writing, and featuring on other musicians' projects. This pivot let him stay relevant without carrying the burden of constant reinvention. Mentorship is a proven way to extend your legacy, especially if you're no longer competing for top radio play. In a more recent development, Talib teamed up with Grammy-winning producer Hit Boy for an album titled Victims and Villains. If The Hustle was a desperate lunge for edginess, and Purple Wonder Love was a nostalgic throwback, this collaboration struck a middle ground. The production felt contemporary, yet Talib's soulful essence remained front and center. No masks, no forced gimmicks, just Musiq Soulchild evolving naturally. Victims and Villains didn't top every chart, but it received a warm welcome from fans and critics. Most of all, people were relieved. Finally, here was Musiq Soulchild being himself while incorporating modern touches. Critics praised the album's cohesive feel, and longtime devotees appreciated the balance of authenticity and growth. It didn't catapult him back into multi-platinum territory, but it was a promising step forward. Through Victims and Villains, Talib seemed to confirm that he had discovered a sweet spot, adopt current production methods without forsaking the soulful foundation that defined him. This strategy might be the equilibrium he had been chasing all along, maintaining core fans while still drawing in new listeners. When you examine Musiq Soulchild's journey, certain lessons jump out, lessons applicable not just to musicians, but to anyone working in a fast-changing industry. First, brand identity is incredibly precious. Once an audience connects to a specific version of you, drastic deviations can feel like betrayals. Smaller, organic changes typically generate better long-term loyalty. Talib Johnson's episodes with The Hustle and Purple Wonder Love underscore the risks of straying too far from your roots. Yes, you might spark short-term buzz, but the blowback can be devastating. In Talib's case, these personas essentially derailed his career during a precarious period for R&B. He learned the hard way that reinvention shouldn't sever the core traits your fans fell in love with. Yet stagnation is equally dangerous. The music business quickly sidelines anyone who fails to adapt. The key is a delicate balancing act. You evolve incrementally while holding on to the essence that got you noticed in the first place. Over time, Talib discovered this balance by merging modern production with soulful vocals, growth without total brand erasure. It's worth noting how the Scandal label, his abrupt pivot away from being Musiq Soulchild, continues to haunt discussions of his career. Even now, when he teases new music, fans wonder if they're getting the classic Musiq Soulchild or a shock shift into something else. The aftermath of that period remains part of his cultural legacy. For a time, critics dismissed him as an artist who'd lost his identity. Although he's made strides to rebuild, old reputations are hard to shake. Hardcore fans, those who championed his early ballads, remain cautious. Some have never quite forgiven the alter egos, while others appreciate that he had the courage to step outside his comfort zone. This duality underscores how critical it is for performers to maintain consistency in brand messaging. Interestingly, the controversy also keeps Musiq Soulchild's story compelling. The drama of his transformations remains a point of debate, ensuring people continue discussing him and re-examining his catalog. In an age where content is king, even negative intrigue can sustain interest. Viewers love dissecting the meltdown, analyzing whether he should have stayed the same or questioning if a more moderate approach could have worked better. Currently, Talib Johnson is an elder statesman of modern R&B. He appears at festivals, performs iconic hits, and occasionally releases new projects. While he may not dominate the charts as he did 2 decades ago, he retains a devoted fan base that admires his vocal gift. Think of him as a seasoned veteran, no longer the fresh phenomenon, yet undeniably integral to the genre's fabric. A significant portion of his current energy goes into collaborations and mentorship. He offers guidance to budding artists, cautioning them against the pitfalls he encountered, from brand confusion to the perils of sudden fame. By staying involved behind the scenes, he extends his influence beyond his own records. Anytime Talib performs Love or Half Crazy, crowds respond with nostalgic fervor. These songs evoke strong memories for fans who cherish the early 2000s R&B wave. Although he may never regain the multi-platinum sheen of his breakout era, the timeless nature of those hits ensures he'll remain a beloved figure in soul music circles. Let's peel back additional layers often missed in quick summaries. He never aimed for fame. It's striking how big he got, given he didn't originally chase stardom. This shaped the humility that fans found so refreshing and also contributed to the anxiety that fueled his alcoholism. Influences extend beyond R&B. He frequently cites funk, gospel, hip-hop, and even rock as inspirations. This explains some of the adventurous leaps in his sound, though not necessarily the extreme persona changes. Early alcoholism could have ended everything. The hospital incident was no minor blip. It nearly halted his career before it truly launched. His survival and renewed focus speak to remarkable resilience. Shades and hats as armor. While many saw it as a fashion statement, it started as a shield for a shy performer. Ironically, it became his trademark, symbolizing the introspective soul man fans adored. He's also a behind-the-scenes powerhouse. Whether collaborating with other artists or writing songs, Talib Johnson has left an imprint beyond his own discography. This quiet influence on the industry often goes unnoticed. Having delved into every twist and turn, you might ask, did Musiq Soulchild truly recover from his identity meltdown? In commercial terms, he never recaptured the meteoric success of his early career. But creatively, he seems to have found a more balanced approach, blending soulful authenticity with tasteful modern production. He still writes, records, and commands a level of respect that many R&B veterans only dream of. Yes, the fiascos of The Hustle and Purple Wonder Love loom large in discussions about him. But fans have largely reached a truce with that era. Some see it as evidence of his willingness to experiment, while others view it as a cautionary tale. Regardless, it remains a memorable chapter in his ongoing story, serving as both a warning and a testament to his resilience. Ultimately, Musiq Soulchild's tale highlights the tension between authenticity and adaptation. In a market that's forever shifting, how far should you go to stay relevant? Talib Johnson's journey reveals the extremes, from unstoppable star to scandal-ridden outcast, and then back to a measured, soulful presence. Even if he never reclaims the throne of early 2000s R&B, he'll always hold a special place as one of the genre's defining voices. Those timeless hits, like Love, Just Friends, and So Beautiful, remain pillars of countless romantic playlists. And though he isn't a mainstream chart topper anymore, his name still carries weight among connoisseurs of R&B. When he performs live, delivering the emotional punch only he can, it's clear the spark that lit up his early career is still burning. In the end, that raw, soulful ability is what built his entire brand. And that's an essence you can't just manufacture or destroy overnight. So that's the unfiltered story of Talib Johnson, Musiq Soulchild, who soared to unbelievable heights, nearly lost everything, and found a way to keep creating. But here's the million-dollar question. What do you think? Did those wild reinventions damage his momentum beyond repair? Or do you admire his attempts to stay current in a cutthroat industry? We want to hear from you. Comment below. Which version of Musiq Soulchild resonates with you the most? Classic soul or adventurous experimentalist? Share your memories. Did you fall in love with his music during his debut or discover him later in his career? Speculate on the future. Will he try another big reinvention, or has he learned to evolve in smaller, more organic ways? And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any deep dives into your favorite artists' hidden worlds. You never know who we'll uncover next. As always, thank you for tuning in, and let's keep this conversation going. In an industry that changes at lightning speed, your voice matters. It's how we keep legacies alive and ensure the real stories don't get lost amid the headlines. Stay curious, stay inspired, and remember, sometimes the greatest stories are hidden behind the hits you've been singing all along. If there's one enduring lesson from the Musiq Soulchild saga, it's this: authenticity remains king. Audiences can smell desperation or trend chasing a mile away. Yet even misguided moves can become valuable lessons that guide artists toward a more genuine expression of self. For Talib Johnson, those lessons came at a steep cost, but they ultimately shaped him into the enduring R&B figure he is now. Sure, the music scene has shifted dramatically, but every time you press play on his classic tracks, you tap into the essence that made him a household name: deep, emotive vocals and real storytelling. Trends may come and go, but genuine talent stands the test of time. We'll leave you with that. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with other R&B enthusiasts who might not know the whole story. Whether you've been jamming with Musiq Soulchild since day one or just stumbled on him now, understand that his saga is far from over. Who knows? Maybe the next chapter will shock us all over again. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.